Hey guys, and welcome back to the Geek Street where the street speaks. Once again, my name is Jess and I have my buddies over here, Eric and Arvin. Say hi, guys.
Peace.
So guys,
Okay, so it feels weird to introduce ourselves because we are doing like a back-to-back recording after She-Hulk, but then for video's sake, we have to say hi to you guys because who knows if you never watch She-Hulk and then you don't know what this is. But yeah, so we are here to talk about this new concept that was introduced by Marvel Studios, which is special presentation, Marvel Cinematic Universe special presentation. So the first installment of the special presentation is, of course, the short film, Werewolf by Night. Of course, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special that is coming up, and we'll have a few more specials that are coming up, right? So Werewolf by Night being the first installment, the reason they're doing this is is sort of like a test audience thing, introduce new concepts. But of course, you have to watch it because it is canon to the MCU. It may not play an important role now, but later on in future movies, they will bring all of these characters and the story arc into the MCU movies or series. So yeah, if you guys haven't watched Werewolf by Night and you're here, make sure to watch it first, as we will be breaking down this short film. So yeah, this is the breakdown of Werewolf by Night. So before we go ahead with the breakdown, just want to introduce to you guys who is Werewolf by Night and everything. Basically, I'm okay. We won't go into who is Werewolf by Night. Later on, I will explain that. But this character was actually teased from Moonknight itself because Moonknight's comics, his first appearance came through Werewolf by Night. So Werewolf by Night is a longer running comic, right? So he's a longer existing character in the Marvel comics, and finally, it's exciting to see him and to also see the man thing. In this episode, yeah, it's really exciting. So basically, the episode starts in a very very different way. I like how they do it. When they introduce the Marvel special presentation, the style that they did it is very similar to the 1973 CBS special presentation. So they decided to go classic a bit. And when the Marvel logo comes up, you don't get your usual Marvel theme song. You actually get this slash with black and white and a more dark and sinister choir opera kind of music. Like this horror theme. This kind of music fits in, right? So yeah, it starts in there. So at the beginning, we were not really sure what year this was actually set in because the story starts black and white. Even the narrator who speaks, the audio is sort of like during the 1940s. The audio quality and the picture quality. It was really really great the way they did it. They didn't just simply dump a black and white film, but they did it accurately following that. But of course, later on, we find out what year this is set in. And if you guys didn't figure it out, do you guys know when this is set in?
yeah.
Okay, don't say yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Later I'll explain why, like what were the indications that actually showed. I mean, I prepared this thing, man, so I don't want to spoil it so fast. Okay, so first thing, it starts when the narrator speaks. It shows an image of what we think is a vampire, an MCU version of a vampire. You see this fat-looking thing with sharp fangs. So remember when we were initially talking about Blade, we were wondering how are the vampires going to appear, because we weren't introduced to this mystical side of the MCU. Everything was about space and everything. So we were thinking like space vampires because Thor did mention there was space vampires. But now since MCU is introducing this mystical side, we get to see Moonknight, we see Werewolf by Night. So we know that there were creatures of the mythic lore that are part of the MCU. So probably the vampires will be part of this. And most likely our vampires in Blade will look something like this when they transform, at least. So yeah, Um, the story basically focuses on Ulysses Stone. Ulysses
Bloodstone.
Stone. The Bloodstone. So the Bloodstone is also not a new thing that is introduced in MCU. It's actually a long playing thing in the Marvel comics. So basically, Ulysses in the comics, he was a caveman revived by aliens with the blood gem. Okay, so the blood gem, and then he became a monster hunter. So how they do this is he acquired a bloodstone. So we don't know how he acquired a bloodstone, but we know maybe the bloodstone is not galactic or cosmic, but it's more mystical. So probably with sorcerer powers and everything. So the question comes into play, does this bloodstone possess the same kind of power as the dark hole or the reality stone? Because like for example, um, Wanda has powers of the dark hole, right? But then she also it also sort of imitates the reality stone's powers. So maybe the bloodstone can be from the same bloodline, I would say. Probably that there were a few kinds of mystical objects that gives up this kind of power. Lah. And it says that Ulysses was slain from the previous full moon. So you know that he was slain by a monster, and which monster comes out during the full moon? A werewolf, right? So what we are thinking is the story goes in a way where Werewolf by Night killed Ulysses to make this ritual happen, where everyone comes so that he can actually go and save his friend Ted, the main thing. So Jack Russell is played by Gail Garcia Bernal. So a little bit of background about Jack Russell. So he's not a human that was suddenly made into a werewolf. This is sort of a bloodline thing, a heritage thing. So we have the original werewolf from during Dracula's time, and then this was passed down, and he's a man who can become a werewolf. Okay, just a little bit of info for you guys. But now here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when Jack Russell is walking into the mansion or whatever you call it, right? There's a hallway full of murals. Okay, full of murals, full of text. So you see the murals, it's all about these monster hunters killing all these monsters. But there's one very prominent mural that they choose to show whenever people interact, especially when Elsa and Elsa and Verusa are talking. They show this mural, and it looks fitting image of God, the God Butcher, being slain.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you guys have any theory about that? Why is a mural of God, the God Butcher, over there?
For me, if you want me to theorize and to connect the dots, I think it's very weird and illogical to connect the dots because it won't make sense in that way. Because God is from space and these hunters are here on Earth. So to make that happen, and what God comes on Earth and this happens, so it's very weird to connect it. I think it's just a subtle reference. They just want to put it there, like Marvel tends to do the reference, this character is here, those kind of things. Probably that.
Yeah. So I mean, I felt like there was a reason why they put it, but like you said, it's illogical to connect the dots because there's only one God, the God Butcher, and we know how his story was, and this one was slain, unless because when God became the God Butcher, we didn't really see what were his adventures as the God Killer, because later on we showed that Thor finds out that he's been killing gods. So maybe God, the God Butcher, actually came to Earth. God came to Earth and tried killing some gods, and he was attacked, but then he ran away. I don't know, because even this mural is a comic version of God, not the movie version of God, right? So okay, it's okay. We can just leave it. We don't want to dwell too much into it. So when Jack Russell walks into the hall, he sees multiple heads of slain beasts, and of course the vampire being the prominent one that was being shown. He even was speaking to one of the hunters, Jovin, and he says that he knows the vampire and he's been fighting with him. So why are they talking a lot about vampires? Vampires are going to be part of the MCU. So I think that's why. Then we are introduced, of course, to Medusa, the wife of Ulysses. Basically, in the comics, Medusa is a monster hunter. Even Elsa, who is played by Laura Donnelly, she's also a monster hunter. And in the comics, she's a member of the Next Wave and also Midnight Suns. So, we are seeing a lot of references of Midnight Suns happening. I mean, of course, it's in the cards. I think she's going to be one of the prominent characters who's going to be playing, who's going to be part of the Midnight Suns. Then they're introduced, all of these hunters, they're introduced to this creepy puppet cops. I don't know why did they do that. And he mentions that, they have to go and hunt the monster, which is Manting. And as they go into the maze, they start fighting each other off. And this is the first time we see Manting, okay, in the MCU. And it was really, really cool because he was exactly how he looks like in the comic. I don't think they did any tweaking. What do you guys think? When we saw Manting.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's always kudos to Marvel because they're bringing a lot of comic accurate things, from the Marvel. Even though from the comic it looks weird, Man-Thing is a weird thing and stuff, and bringing him, I think, on the show, I think is amazing. And of course, a comic accurate version of him, right? And I think it's but then again, hopefully we get to see Man-Thing as a how would I say, as how would you portray a monster? You portray Man-Thing. I mean, we do see like of course it's a human then transformed of then into a Man-Thing. And what's interesting is how the backstory of Man-Thing is that because back then when they were trying to replicate the super soldier serum, so he was trying to replicate and then he replicated it to the serum. And I think there was this backstory why he was driving somewhere and then he had some thing, but he really wanted to test.
Being chased by AIM. AIM wanted.
Yes, he was brought in by AIM to do that. Then after he was chased by AIM again, yeah. Then he took the serum thinking that it would work on him, but then his car crashed and he actually entered a mystical swamp. So the super soldier serum infused together with the mystical swamp. That's how he became Man-Thing. So that's the backstory of Man-Thing. And one interesting fact is, if you want to compare Man-Thing and also Swamp Thing is from the DC comics, so they are identical. But of course, Man-Thing came first, and also they had a DC TV show of Swamp Thing, and that show was amazing. But they only had one season, and they canceled off. I'm not really sure, but it was an interesting season. So I fell in love with that particular character. And like I said, both them delve to very similar. A lot of Marvel and DC comics, they have similar characters, back and forth. And Man-Thing is the same. So I really hope they still carry the essence of him being the monster. Like if you turn him into a literal joke and then it's gone. Like I said. So I hope, like I said, now it's everything, whatever we are seeing, for me especially, whatever I'm seeing, it's like, it's always, I love this, but it's like a 50-50. I hope they don't screw it up. Those kind of things. I really love Man-Thing.
So, for Eric.
I think one thing I just want to give credits for is that considering that this was just a special presentation, they did a really good job on the CGI and graphics and visual effects. They could have cut down the cost, but I think what they did was they split the cost 80% on some really good graphics and 20% on what Bloodstone's power coming out. So I mean, certain scenes you can see the CGI is very low, especially when the whole when they were shocking him and when they were using the Bloodstone. That part you can see the CGI was really weak. But when they did with Man-Thing, I feel like they put 80% of their CGI budget on him, which is a good thing. So I really give kudos to the visual effects for this, especially the Man-Thing.
Yeah. I think Man-Thing looked very lifelike, I would say. So, for those of you who don't know, they call him Ted, right? So basically, his former self as the human, his name was Theodore Salis, and he was the scientist who was working for him, and like how Harvin mentioned. But what's interesting is this mystical swamp is actually powered by the nexus of all realities. So the nexus of all realities, of course, you guys saw it in Marvel's What If, and you know how huge this thing is. It's beyond the entire universe. So I don't know how this story plays. They didn't really explain much, but so we have the Man-Thing. So this is strike number 1, okay, explaining on where the timeline plays, because we know that Theodore Salis was a scientist during the modern era, not during 1930s, not during 1940s. Okay, during the modern era, probably in the 60s or the 70s. But there's still a few things that would explain what year it was. Not really what year, but which era it was. So yeah, we see Man-Thing, and of course, Jack Russell says that, how many times do I have to save you? So you know that they were really good friends, and he's there to save him. And Jack and Elsa, they get stuck in this coffin mausoleum, and they plan their escape. So during their escape, we actually see all these coffins, and if you actually notice all of the dates, right, of their passing, the most latest date it shows it was 1986. So this story is taking place after 1986, long time after 1986. So it's not in the 30s or the 40s. So I like how they do that, because when I first saw, I was like, again, me and my wife, we were watching, and then we're like, I told her, this one I think is during the 30s or the 40s. And she's like, their clothing doesn't look like that, it doesn't say 30s or 40s. But yeah, it's all modern era. So it's probably happening somewhere around 2025. I think it's 2025. If you look up information online also, it actually says 2025. So right after when everyone came back from the blip, so that is where the story is taking place. So of course they escape, and Elsa meets Ted, and Ted kills a guy, right? So Man-Thing's powers are interesting also, because he sort of can burn people, but not simply. It's based on their fear. If the person has fear, and then that's when he is able to burn the person. If you have no fear, cannot burn. So next time if you do bump into the Man-Thing, don't be scared. If not, you'll be burned to death. So yeah, and Ted escapes, and of course Jack tries to hold the Bloodstone, and his nature is revealed also. Turns out he's a monster, and Verusa uses the Bloodstone to force, because Jack only can transform into a werewolf when there's a full moon, but Verusa uses the Bloodstone to force for him to transform prematurely, and we see him in his wolf form. I've got to say, I was actually really hyped up to see him in wolf form, but when I saw the actual thing, I wasn't really that excited. I mean, they did a really good job with makeup and prosthetic, and I understand they didn't want to use CGI to make it lifelike. But for Werewolf, because if you see Werewolf by Night in the comics, he's practically almost full wolf. He's not like a partial wolf. So it's either they're trying to introduce, like, maybe this is like a sub form of himself. Maybe there's like a final form that we haven't seen.
I like the fact that you point out, yes, there's a sub form, because it gives more characterization for us to study even more about him, because it'll be more like similar how She-Hulk is, right? The more he gets, even more, then he becomes full form of the wolf. I like the idea. Like, this is just because he says that he can control. He knows what he's doing, kind of, at least at a point. He says he knows what he's doing. But what if he doesn't know what he's doing? Then he becomes full-blown werewolf, right? So I like the idea. But and one more thing, I think for a fact why they went this route is because, yes, we have seen multiple versions of werewolves in the movies, cinemas on a whole, right? A lot of, like, for example, like my thought process of how a werewolf will look like is from Harry Potter, the Prisoner of Azkaban. Like, you see how a werewolf, Professor, what's his name? Professor Lupin. Like, he becomes. So that's my adaptation of how werewolf looks like. So that's kind of it. So I feel like they try to replicate even more how, or they won't have that it'll be like, oh, it's the same, more similar. So I think that is why they went this route. But I like the idea they're saving like a version of a full-blown werewolf, like they can use it at a certain extent, right? So I hope somewhere around down the road they do that.
To me, so like I was like a little bit like Jess. I wouldn't say disappointed, but I was a bit like, oh, okay, like that. But I will still cut them some slack, because I think they not missed out, like they didn't use one of the biggest elements, which was color. Everything was black and white. Color usually pops things out, like especially the end when we see the Man-Thing. in color. I didn't expect his eyes to be blood red, which was very sick. So imagine if color was just like in that scene with him with the werewolf. I think it would have been very, very good. But the color wasn't there, the element wasn't there. We couldn't even see blood. You know, who knows, when he was ripping everybody out, his body was with blood or what. We can't really see that. Yeah. So I'll cut it some slack lah. Hopefully, if we do get the second one or something more about him, I hope we don't go back into the black and white lah. I think towards the ending also we see that it's already colored. So
No, I totally get the point why they went the black and white, because werewolf, right? Because it's monster, it's like a homage to all those universal studios, the monsterverse per se. We all have grow up watching all those monsters. So they wanted to give and werewolf was back then, like the adaptation of werewolf was way back. So they wanted to give that feel, and plus it's a special presentation. I think the idea of a special presentation is the fact that they can do anything they want, but at the end they will relate it to the MCU. So I think that's an incredible idea. I love the fact they went with black and white, and the effects they did with black and white. And if you think about it, they are really smart. I think we have never seen a lot of blood in the MCU, but this, and they know for a fact that if you show blood in colorization, children especially, they'll be like, oh, blood red. But if you do it in black and white, they wouldn't know. So
no, but it's 16 plus. You know, it's rated 16 plus.
I'm maybe for the gore scenes, like all the slashing and stuff, but the blood idea though, like I will give you blood but black and white.
Yeah, that's what they usually do. I mean, even if you see Thor, Love and Thunder, especially the fight in what's the place, the temple place, Zeus guards.
Omnipotent City.
Omnipotent City. You know, when they were killing everyone, it was all gold blood, so they can just show as much as they want because it's not actual red blood. Yeah. But like Eric mentioned, I guess we cut them some slack, especially when it comes to the werewolf part. I mean, I expected something like Van Helsing's werewolf, you know, big and huge. But we got a little bit of that boy from Jumanji when he looked like the monkey. That's the first thing I thought when I saw him. But let's see how it goes in the future of MCU. So, of course, he kills everyone, but as a werewolf, he still recognizes Elsa because he smelled her and he caught her scent and everything, right? So he knows that she's a friend. And then Man-Thing comes and finishes off Borusa in a very cool way. He just burns her because, you know, she was really scared of the Man-Thing. And Elsa gets told of the story. So it sort of implied that she is the sole owner of the story. Yeah. She knew about it. And then the color changes. So this is the interesting thing about Elsa. Because in the comics, Elsa is a monster hunter. So in this, is she going to continue as a monster hunter, or is she like sort of like an anti-monster hunter that hunts the bad monsters but leaves the good ones, you know, that kind of thing. So I think Elsa is going to play a huge role if they decide to continue with Werewolf by Night lah. Of course they will. It's exciting to see. And how they did the color transition, I think it was introduced initially in WandaVision from black and white to color, and this is the same thing that we did, and how much color plays a part. We see that like how Eric said, but there's some kind of magic to see it in black and white. You know, the simplicity of it. It was really nice. It gives that mysterious feeling lah. And finally, at the end, we see the Man-Thing and Jack Russell, the best friends. They set up camp, and basically that's the end. Like I said, special presentation is just sort of like a concept testing. We won't know when we will get to see Man-Thing in the future, but hopefully it'll be very soon.
All of this, I think they will pop out very soon. Once they already did the seed for Supernatural within the Marvel MCU. So when you see Blade, and we already have a version of Black Knight, right, with the Ebony Blade, you know, those kind of things. A lot of Doctor Strange delve into it also, and so this Wanda. I mean, there's so much of things they can put in with Moonknight, there's so much where they can merge into one together. Of course, then lead up to Midnight Suns. So for me, I think this was a very solid thing. I think while we are watching She-Hulk, I think this one just made us forget about She-Hulk like this. I mean, imagine so far 8 episodes of She-Hulk, 1 episode of Werewolf by Night, and it's just bonkers.
Gives so much satisfaction.
Yeah, so much satisfaction, just one. Like the way they did it and stuff. So I really hopeful to see them even more. And like I said, I wish to see them more, but I wish they do not alter their characters too much, And like I think for example, like I say for the Daredevil, like I'm still thinking about the fact that yes, it's like how they screwed up. Kind of for me, they screwed up the character, but I feel like they just did it because it was inside a She-Hulk episode. Like Daredevil, it was inside a She-Hulk episode. So it's like that. So hopefully when Daredevil is inside his episode, or when he's popping on the Echo series, it's like a much more different version of how he was. The essence of it is a bit different. So hopefully it's a bit, they don't tweak it too much.
Arvind is so upset about Daredevil that he decided to talk about it in this episode as well. So, Eric, anything to say?
I think we have to see him again. I think we need to see Werewolf by Night. I think a lot of people, especially those who don't read the comics or to follow the initial animations, will be wondering what's this about, especially the timeline. You haven't told us the timeline yet.
I said 2025.
Yeah, so we know it's somewhere recent. I didn't know it was somewhere recent until you telling me now. So can you imagine how many people would have known that is recent by our videos or by the breakdown of other people? So it opens up a lot of pathway. This is the future. Werewolf is one of the future, so they should knowing that your first episode went very well. You should continue and use the same characters, use the same background, use the same humor. Don't shift things up, don't mess things up, and just continue with it. Go with the flow. Keep it Elsa, keep it Menting, keep it Jack, and all things good. Yeah.
I think one interesting fact is that how we are theorizing, it has mutants been here all this while. Now we got a fact, it's like a fact check that monsters has been in MCU for a good long while, because with Ulysses Blood, as you see, he's very old and in fact long living because of the Bloodstone. Because of that, so that's why he's probably 200 years old or 150 years old plus. So throughout then, the monsters has existed in the MCU, and so the door is already open to that, the supernatural world. So so much more they can do, and of course I think they already confirmed the fact that Werewolf by Night is the furthest in the timeline. That is the furthest, because Thor: Love and Thunder was the furthest, but now Werewolf by Night is the furthest in the timeline. So currently that is the future. So all this right now, She-Hulk was before all this kind of thing.
Wait, I just remembered something. Didn't at the very beginning they were mentioning something about the normal superheroes, and then they went down and say this is our reality. So does this mean that is there a reason? There must be a reason why we haven't seen any monsters for the past all Marvel movies of Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now in 4, right? Yeah, 4. So why have we not seen a single monster at all? So could it be that this is now stuck in a different reality until the multiverse opens up and then boom?
Possibly, but I don't think they would want to save. There is one particular monster universe, and now it's like the multiverse happens. I think it for me, I feel like this defeats the purpose of it. I feel it should have been inside the universe all this long, and that's why they have the hunters, right? So that's why the hunters has been taking care of these things. So yeah,
there's only 8 hunters there, and then in the world there's a big.
No, I think the hunters.
No. They
were the chosen one. I think. Yeah, they were the only chosen ones.
Because if you look at the diagram, it was Ulysses and then another 5 more hunters or something. Those were his band of brothers. So each person is to replace them and someone to take lead as Ulysses. But I think there's a lot more hunters out there. And I think that's how Blade's storyline is going to fall in as well. as a vampire hunter lah. So yeah, basically that's the breakdown of Werewolf by Night. Once again, it's something that is interesting. We hope to see more Werewolf by Night. Let us know what you guys think, because this is something really new. So make sure to like and subscribe our YouTube channel, The Geek Street, and also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, thegeekstreet.my, and also in the link in the description below, it brings you to our Discord community. So make sure to join our Discord community, because that is where we'll be talking more about all these kind of things. You don't have to see us just talking on the screen, but you can actually join in along with us and talk everything about Marvel or anything Star Wars. I think right now we are talking about Marvel and Star Wars, because these are the two things that are going on, right? So yeah, hope to see you guys in our Discord community. And that's it for tonight. This is the Geek Street, and the street has spoken. Till next time, see you guys. Bye bye and good night.
Ciao.
Ciao, guys.
Good night.